What is up, New Beginnings Church? Happy Tuesday morning to you, and welcome to this devotion through the Gospel of Luke. We are in Luke chapter 10, last one here, and then we'll flip into Luke chapter 11, a really cool story, and I mentioned this story just a couple of days ago on Sunday. We were talking about how I wanted to give you a word to really ground you in terms of like, okay, after the resurrection, what should I be focused on? And it was the word disciple, the word disciple. And I mentioned this story because there was a great quote, and I'll read it for you again, but it's a quote from a couple of hundred years before Jesus. It was from the rabbinical community of Judaism, and it said this. His name is Yosef ben Yozer, and I don't even know that I'm saying that right, but he said this. He said, "Let thy house be a meeting house for the wise, and powder thyself in the dust of their feet, and drink their words with thirstiness." And so the wise were the rabbis. And of course, again, we talked about this, that many people called Jesus a rabbi, including Mary after the resurrection. Of course, the number of different people throughout the New Testament stories call him a rabbi. That was his title. He was an itinerant, traveling teacher and preacher and miracle worker. And so they called him rabbi. And of course, when you think about what the rabbi says, he goes, "No, let thy house be a meeting house for the wise." I mentioned this story. It says in Luke 10:38, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet, listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, and indeed only one. And Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." You know what's funny is this? I don't know what age you are, but if you're over the age of 40, you might have grown up watching The Brady Bunch. And if you remember, there's this famous line from the middle kid that's always upset, like, "Marcia, Marcia, Marcia." And so when I read that, "Martha, Martha," that's what I heard in my ears real quick. I don't know if anybody relates, but, "Martha, Martha," here's what's so cool is they display what this rabbinical quote is talking about, right? They invite Jesus into their home. Second thing, it said that Mary was sitting at the feet of Jesus, just soaking it all in. What was the last line of the quote? "And drink in their words with thirstiness." And so, if I could give you that just kind of reminder that you are meant to be so much more than just a believer. You're not meant to just believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. No, a disciple says, "No, come into my home," right? So those three things I think really flow out of this quote here. Number one is this: you should invite Jesus into your home. I think there's so many ways that you can imagine that, be it doing devotions with your kids at bedtime, praying around the dinner table before a meal, going to church together as a family. I think having a small group in your home, hosting a small group, saying, "Hey, I'm going to invite Christians in and we're going to open up the Bible and do God's Word." Or, "My home doesn't work, I'm going to go to somebody else's home so at least we can still do that." But really think about that. I need to invite Jesus into my home. Where is he at in your home? The second part of the quote was, "Powder thyself in the dust of their feet." This was the image of saying, as we walk on these dusty Roman roads and Jesus is teaching, I want to be so close to the Master that I hear every word, and that by the end of the walk, I'm covered in his dust. That is the sign, is that Jesus literally has rubbed off on you through osmosis and proximity. I love that in the New Testament. There's a quote, and I think it's in the book of Mark, where it says he called his disciples so that they might be with him and so that he might be with them. And so there is something to saying, hey, we're doing life together. And so can you invite Jesus with you on the road? Maybe that's your commute. Maybe that's the car ride in. How many of y'all are wasting time listening to God knows what on the radio on the way into work when you could take it as a moment of prayer, a moment of worship, a moment of listening to teaching even. And so where's Jesus at on the road? And then of course the last one, drink in their words thirstily. You and I, because we don't have the opportunity to walk with Jesus physically, we should be walking with him through the Gospels. And so drinking in his words thirstily, we still have that opportunity. They are the red letter words. And so open up your home, invite Jesus into your home, take Jesus on the road with you, certainly, and follow him as closely as you can, and then always be soaking in the words of Jesus. That takes me beyond being a believer and actually helps me to become a disciple. Church, I love you so much. God bless you. I will see you tomorrow.